Good morning, good evening, good afternoon. This is CMG Talk, and this is Catherine Gallagher. Thanks for joining me. And I would like to talk about the biggest risks. Risks are different for different people. And a risk can feel like it's reaching something that we never imagined we'd ever do. And when people talk to me about taking that risk, it comes in different forms. Sometimes risk, and the biggest risk we can make, is being vulnerable. Talking about our feelings. Being open about how we feel about someone. Challenging something. And feeling that we're making ourselves vulnerable. Challenging a situation, expressing how we feel about it, challenging whether somebody's been fair-minded, questioning someone's attitudes, intention or agenda. Risk can come in putting ourselves out there. We might be doing something where we're going on an adventure. We might be going on our travels. Exploring new worlds, new experiences, new cultures. Risk could be taking the next step in a relationship. Risk could be reviewing and looking at relationships and deciding whether relationships and friendships are working. A risk could be reviewing and looking at a career, changing your career, doing new studies, learning something new, taking up a new hobby. A risk could be sitting down and being really honest and really truthful with yourself about that thing that you're stuck with. A risk could be really opening up about anything you feel that you're not happy about. And then doing something about it. And that means making those changes that you need to. Of course, risk can be about investments. For sure. Risks could be jumping in and allowing yourself to be happy. Risks come in different shapes. And often we will admire people that take those risks and it works out. Or we'll even admire somebody just taking that risk. Sometimes though, we might judge someone. They've maybe taken a risk and we might be resentful. We might be envious. We might be judgmental because we see somebody doing something and we think that's a risk that I couldn't take or I wouldn't take because it's selfish. And the impact on other people. You see, doing something where you're taking a risk is a choice. Some people don't take risks, or they take calculated risks. Some people stay with what they know, it's familiar, and they look back and they maybe look at some opportunities where they could have taken that opportunity to go and live abroad or to go and take that new job, but they chose not to do it. Maybe they chose to stay at home and be around family or to be a caregiver, or they stayed with familiar. It's not less than, it's just where I'm at. If we see something compare what we do to someone else's, we're living and trying to live someone else's life. It's a choice. Sometimes we have to take the jump or not. But if we want something to be different, if we're unhappy or we want to feel something more, we're telling ourselves we're meant for more. We're telling ourselves there's more to be had. We're telling ourselves it must be better than this. Sometimes we have to take that plunge, that jump, that risk and go for it. The opportunities are there. We might decide to take it, but sometimes we weigh up the pros and cons and we decide that the risk is too great. How many people do we know that have taken a risk, sold up, moved on, went to a different country, lived there and went, this isn't for me, and come back? But if you ask them, was it worth the risk? They'll have different assessments on that. Sometimes people say, I'd rather do it and have the knowledge. No. So I don't look back and say, wishful. I wish I'd done it. Is there something that you would like to take that chance on? Because really, if there's a risk there to be had, what you're really doing is talking about investing in you, taking that risk on you. I'm not one necessarily to advocate that people take uncalculated risks, right? I always think it's good to weigh up. Be well informed. Sometimes people come to me and they'll say, I just jumped in there, I just went for it and I took this risk and it worked out. I think as you get to a certain point in your life, when you reach certain milestones in your life, you often feel there's more to lose. When you're younger, you often feel you've got more freedom. Not always, because sometimes even when you're younger, you have more responsibilities or you feel there's more expected of you. Culturally, societally, maybe within your household. We're often encouraged to take more risk. And risk isn't about putting yourself in harm's way. That's not what I'm talking about. Risk is taking yourself out of your comfort zone, opening yourself up to opportunity. That's the risk I'm talking about here. And we know that sometimes we'll hear things like, what's for you won't go by you, right? Nothing ventured, nothing gained. We hear all these sayings. I had a conversation about these sayings. Somebody said to me, how many of these sayings do you know? And I said I could spend an hour telling you them all. Right? But these things we hear in every culture, every generation, we hear them. An apple a day keeps the doctor away. There's always a truth there. There's always a truth there. Investing in you, self-investment, taking those opportunities to grow, to challenge, to live, to experience, that's the risk we're talking about. And I look in my life at people I know that have taken those risks, they've come, experienced, lived, and done things that I see as brave, courageous. That's why I have my Facebook group called Life Curator Courage, right? Living your life despite adversity, living through it and coming through it with courage. Living our best life is what we all aspire to. Living a happy life, living with a happy mindset is a choice. We can't allow ourselves or afford to allow ourselves to forget that. That doesn't mean to say we don't have our bad days. That doesn't mean to say that we're not unhappy at times. It doesn't mean to say we don't have low moods. We don't feel sadness and regret and remorse sometimes. But it's what we do with it that matters. Those emotions, those feelings. There's lots of support out there. There's lots of apps you can download if you need to. You can listen to podcasts like this with episodes that help you and support you as you go along. There's a free app at the moment for 12 months called Balance, Balance, that is actually there to help with anxiety and stress and sleep. I know I don't have shares in it. I was talking to somebody about it the other day and they said, oh, and I said, no, I don't have shares in it. I'll always promote things that I think are healthy or helpful for people, and I usually try it out, right, to make sure that it works or that it's supportive and it would be beneficial. There's lots of other ones. There's obviously, there's ones like Headspace, there's Happify, there's 10% Happier, there's mindfulness.com. There's lots of different places you can go to, but Balance is one that's around just now, and it's 12 months. You get it for free. It's an app you download. I think it's an Android app though. I think you would need to check it out if you're interested in it. I think the key thing is understanding how to support yourself if you're going to take that risk. Well informed. Find out what you need to know. When I ask people what kind of risks they're talking about or thinking about doing, it is immeasurable. They'll often talk about lots of different things, learning something new, maybe leaving their job, going back to study, moving and living in a different country. They might be talking about running a marathon. They might be talking about challenging themselves personally with learning languages. They might be talking about going into a different career that they never imagined to ever do. They might be talking about going and living in a place that's completely alien to them that they never imagined that they would have to survive through. I don't know, lots of different things. Sometimes people say, I've been saving up for something and I really want to do it. It's a big risk for me, but I feel I'm ready now. I just need to find the courage, the belief. I need to go for it. If not now, when? If I don't do it now, I'll never do it. So it's how you term it within your head. If you're telling yourself, there's never the right time, maybe this isn't the right time, you're constantly talking yourself out of it. You're unlikely to do it, let's be honest. And sometimes when we're talking about risks, I think it's always a good idea to explain to our loved ones that this is something we're doing, we're passionate about, and it's something that we want to do and we're ready to do. They might not like it, they might not agree with it. But I think if you're able to do it, want to do it, then people that love you and care about you eventually come round. I remember when I was changing my career and was becoming a counsellor, there wasn't any qualifications really for counselling, and I did the first qualified training in the UK. It was Europe actually, and telling people that I was becoming a qualified counsellor, it was a huge risk, right? Because nobody really knew what it was about. Nobody really knew or understood what counselling and mental health really was. And here I was, leaving and moving on and doing something completely didn't make sense to most people. Yet I did it. It was a big risk. We often will do things that doesn't make sense to people around us, but it makes sense to us. It's challenging to other people sometimes. But if we look for other people to be okay with it, often we don't take that leap. Because sometimes people won't give them their okay. They won't give their blessing. They won't say they agree with it because it's not their thing. It's not their risk. It's not what they want to do. It's not going to add benefit to their life. So why would they be okay with it? Particularly if it means that their life will change if you do this. Maybe they don't necessarily see that it's in their best benefit to say, yes, go ahead, unless they're making it about you. And that's what we hope people will do. We hope people will say, yes, it's your turn now. You should do this. You should go for it. Right? Be self-full. Go and do something for you. I know this is a risk, but you need to believe in yourself. You need to give it all you can go. I've got you. We're here for you. Take the plunge. Take the step and go for it. And at least you'll know, and if it's not for you, at least you know you've tried, you've given it your best. And sometimes people try to do contingency plans, don't they? Well, I'll go for it, but if it doesn't work out, at least I can come back and I can come back to my rented place that I haven't sold, or I can come back and I can move in with someone, or I've still got that qualification, right? It might not be the thing that I want to pursue, but I've got the qualification out of it. Or at least I've experienced living somewhere, even if it's not where I want to permanently stay. Some risks we take can have a permanency, or can feel it has a permanency. And the permanency might be that it gives us something solid to go through life with. And sometimes we feel we don't have a way of coming back from it. But that's a mindset, that's a perception. We can change that if we want to. So I'm wondering, as I'm talking about risk, and if there's things that you're thinking about taking that step towards, is there something you're thinking about? Or do you know someone that's been talking about taking a step towards something, and it's a risk that they're thinking of doing, and you're sitting with them and hearing them talking about how to take them out of the comfort zone? Because sometimes when we hear people talking about things and we find it unsettling because we're thinking, oh my goodness, I can't imagine doing that, and that just seems such a big step. And it can be taking early retirement, or it can be selling up, or it can be lots of different things that people take that jump to do. But I wonder, as I'm talking this through and I'm looking at all these different suggestions, are you thinking, actually, it's more this? This is the risk that I'm thinking about. And how would it be more helpful to look at it? Do you write down the pros and cons? Do you think about timescales of when you would do it? Do you think about how you would bring it forward? Is it really something you want, or is it just a nice idea? Sometimes we like to periodically visit something in our mind, about doing something, but we're not really that serious about doing. It's just nice to think about it. One day I'd really like to live in a hot, sunny country, or one day I would really like to live, I'd really like to be able to fly around the country, learn how to fly and be able to get a plane and be able to do that myself. And I'd like to be able to do, sometimes we have these ideas, right? I'd like to be able to go off and, go to the Amalfi Coast and, paint, every day, just get my painting out and just paint, the views. That would be lovely. Right? Sometimes we have these ideas of what we'd like to do. Just sail up and go do this. But we're really not serious about it. It's not something we actually are going to do. We just like to dream about it. It's a fantasy. The risk I'm talking about is something that you feel so unsettled and unhappy about because you've never quite managed to make it happen. It's in the back of your mind. And the more it sits there and the more that the time goes by, the more it really eats away at you because it's something that you've never quite got round to. Set your sights on. Because here's the thing. As time goes by and as we get older, we then start getting to a point in our life where we think, to have the opportunity now? Has time passed me now? Has that opportunity really open for me to do this? If not now, when? Thanks for listening. Until next time, think about that risk. Bye for now.